recruiting doomer or sunshine pumper? Text the guys on the First Liberty Bank text line at 405-651-3439. And call your shot on the Riverwind Casino jackpot line at 405-329-9000.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
It's a Thursday, folks. Getting closer and closer to the weekend. The last weekend of the year without OU football. We're close, folks. Not to sound like Lincoln M. Riley, but we are close. 6 days away from fall camp opening up. Of course, we continue to get closer and closer to the season opener on September 4th against UTEP. And Grayson Singleton is once again out today. He is on vacation this week. So in his stead for the second straight day is an extremely valuable utility man around these parts, the revered Josh Helmer. Josh, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon, my friend. You got to be like, you're ready to broadcast now. You just got back from emceeing the coaches' luncheon. I mean, how are we feeling?
I did MC the coaches' luncheon. I got asked to do that this year. I don't know why. I must have won a raffle or something that I didn't know about. But, yeah, Plank and I had a great time at the OU coaches' luncheon over on the north side of Norman. Got to chat with Brent Venables, of course, Jason Witten, Dylan McCullough, and Miguel Chavis.
It's a good group.
Yeah, one guy who's worked with Brent Venables for 10 years, dating back to their time at Clemson, as Chavis noted today, and two guys that are brand spanking new on the scenes, but are very qualified for the roles into which they are stepping on the OU staff. McCullough, well-traveled as a running backs coach, a guy that's had nothing but success everywhere he's been, and then how can you go wrong with a future NFL Hall of Famer coaching tight ends? A lot of folks rightfully stoked to see what Jason Witten can do this fall with Oklahoma's revamped group of tight ends. And I thought it was interesting, Josh. I thought it was really interesting. Listening to Jason Witten talk, that guy likes him some Hayden Hansen.
Good.
Not surprising by any means. You would hope Jason Witten likes a guy that's started 30-plus games in the SEC, dating back to his time at the University of Florida. But, yeah, he brought some hype. He brought some hype to the Hayden Hansen hype train.
Well,
piled
good.
It right on.
That's what we're looking for, and Hayden Hansen has had that type of attention around him. It's his addition regarded as something that's going to really transform this Oklahoma offense. So let's hope that that is the case. What did the prep look like between you and Plank? How did you mix up questions? I mean, that's kind of interesting to have co-MCs.
As you know, having done a show with him for however long you guys did, I mean, it was years. He's a very easy guy to work with for the most part. Like, he's just one of those dudes that's easy to kind of get into a rhythm with. And so we had a little back and forth beforehand about how we were going to adjust the flow of the rundown, I guess, because we were given a rundown. We were given kind of some key.
I think I've got it right here.
Oh, yes, you're looking at it. We were given kind of a sheet that outlined a rough timetable for the event, everything that we needed to be mindful of, people that we needed to introduce. And so we just kind of developed a system where it's like, all right, you're going to do this and I'll do this, and we'll kind of bounce off one another with this. And so it all went pretty well, I would say.
That's
good. It all went pretty well.
Well, I'm sure it did. You guys are both pros and terrific at what you do. The most interesting thing that was said, I mean, is what will stick with you? Is it Jason Witten talking about Hayden Hansen? What caught your ears?
I would say on an individual level, probably the Hayden Hansen. Like, I'll be honest, none of those four guys really got into the weeds on individual players for the most part. And I understand why, because – you know, Witten, McCullough, Chavis, they were all made available to the media in the spring. So they've had the chance to talk about their rooms before. And then Brent Venables just got back from SEC Media Days last week, and so he's about to run the gamut as far as breaking down his roster, guys he's excited for.
Without actually going through camp, you know, it's
exactly.
like of the same conversations can you have? And yet, guess what? We'll hear from you again, Brent Venables, on Tuesday.
There was one concession Venables made that I thought was interesting. And I don't think it's off base, and he would certainly know better than anybody in this regard. But I thought it was interesting to hear him acknowledge that he doesn't know if Oklahoma's going to have the same competitive depth on defense that they had a year ago. Which, when you look at who they lost, Josh, totally fair. Totally fair. And that's just your head ball coach keeping it a buck. Not every head ball coach is going to come out and say that, and I guess he didn't really say it publicly because we were in a closed meeting and there were no external media figures present. But that is one thing that Brent Venables said in front of that room was, I don't really know whether we're going to have the same competitive depth on defense as we did a season ago because we lost so many guys, not just starters, but key rotational guys. You think about a Marcus Strong, a Sammy Omasigo, for instance, Jaden Hardy at the safety position. And so he added to that, like the back end of that observation was, we obviously have some young guys that we expect to take the next step, and we may wind up being better than we think there. But for the moment, just looking at it compared to what it was a season ago, it's entirely fair to question whether we're going to have that same dynamic where at the defensive tackle position, just to pick one example, you only ever have 2 out on the field at a time, but the Sooners had no less than 5 last year that they could put in the game any down, any situation, any scenario, and they were going to get high-level play from them.
Yeah. I mean, Grayson Halton, Dominic Williams, they each got a bunch of snaps. Actually, each of those 2 players had more snaps last season than Jaden Jackson, so that gives you an illustration of just how much they liked all of those guys up front. Let's hope that Nigel Smith and others, Trent Wilson, can make it to where Oklahoma feels like they have a similar type of depth on the interior, but at least going in, maybe you're not quite ready to say, hey, we're there yet. And I think that's a reasonable approach from Brent Venables. This is the same event that not too many years ago we had an assistant coach compare, Buki to Roy Williams. So, if you could avoid those types of proclamations, with all respect to Buki, that's probably not bad.
Bob from Cement on the First Liberty Bank text line asked, Parker, were there any hot chicks at the luncheon? Quite a few. You know how it goes at events like that, BFC. Anytime there's an auction involved, anytime there's a lot of money being spent, oh, yeah, you'll see some attractive women in the crowd, no question. 405-651-3439. That's the First Liberty Bank text line if you want to tap in with us, as TK Sooner did. Happy birthday, Josh. What are you going to get at Teller's tonight? That's what TK Sooner wants to know.
I don't know. I got to look at the menu. I have not done that yet today. I wouldn't say, it's almost the aesthetic is part of why you go to Teller's too. So there's not one specific item on the menu that I'm like, I got to go get this from Teller's. So I'll get something good. I don't know what it is yet.
Are you the type of person that studies a menu before you show up to a place? Like, do you go in knowing what you're going to get?
Not always, but in certain instances, yes. And mostly just so I'm not that person, at the table. It's like, know what you're going to order. Don't take forever.
I am the type of person that will study a menu if I'm eating somewhere for the first time. Like, I will take an advanced look. I will advance scout the menu, mostly because, after the first time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If I go back to that same establishment, I know there's at least one thing on the menu that I really like.
Sure.
And that I'm content eating.
Or you've ruled one option out.
Exactly. And if there's something else that I would rather have than whatever I had the first time, well, great. But I just have to know that there's at least one thing on the menu that really appeals to me.
I would imagine that I will look at the menu before 6 o'clock, which is when we're,
That's a primetime reservation right there. Primetime.
Wife doesn't mess around. This is a big birthday. It's 36. You're only 36 once.
There we go, Amanda. Good stuff. Folks, the show today is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno, family-owned and operated. Many of their employees have been with the company for 20-plus years. They're passionate. They're experienced. They're eager to help get you behind the wheel of a brand new GMC that suits your lifestyle. Thanks to Dorsey Jones for their partnership. TK Sooner laid out some options for you. Some lobster ravioli.
That sounds pretty
beef,
good.
Short rib rigatoni, Italian meatballs, strip steak.
Lobster ravioli sounds pretty good.
And regarding the hot chicks text from Bob from Cement, Tommy said, and with that response, Parker has earned his place on the couch for the next several nights. My wife
does your wife listen?
My wife never listens to the show.
Yeah, you're
and I probably would have said the exact same thing even if I knew she was listening. She doesn't take any of it seriously.
Well, there
she
are
has a sense of humor.
I mean, look, there's a lot of beautiful women that go to the OU football coaches' luncheon.
That's just reality. It's just reality. WF Sooners said, Parker will be in trouble tonight. Good news is I don't get home. If I am in trouble, I don't get home until a lot later than I usually do tonight because I got to do the rush with Ted until 6.
You've bought yourself a little buffer time there.
Frisco Sooner, on the topic of competitive depth on the defensive side, said, I think OU will miss Grayson Halton more than any other player who has left in the Brent Venables era. In my opinion, that dude was underrated and one hell of a player. You're 1,000% correct, and I think that's one of the big questions. And there aren't many of them on the defensive side for Oklahoma heading into 2026, but I think one of the big questions is, who fills Grayson Halton's shoes? Who becomes the new Grayson Halton? Because David Stone and Jaden Jackson are back. Dominic Williams and Marcus Strong were good players. I don't know that they were impactful enough where you felt like, okay, somebody has to be able to do what Dominic Williams and Marcus Strong did. Like, I don't question that there are at least 3 or 4 guys on Oklahoma's roster right now at defensive tackle that can do what those two did. And they, like I said, they were valuable. They were key cogs in the equation. But Grayson Halton's contributions were just a little bit different. And he added a dimension to that Oklahoma defensive tackle room that I would like to see somebody step up and replicate. Might that be a Tank Carrington? Might that be Nigel Smith? Kenny Azawalu? Kenny Azawalu is somebody that I think he probably doesn't get talked about enough because I think a lot of people have a tough time, myself included, mentally categorizing Kenny Azawalu. Like when you think about the defensive ends as a group, he doesn't necessarily come to mind. And when you think about the defensive tackles as a group, he doesn't necessarily come to mind with that group either, just because he's kind of stuck somewhere in between, right? He was repping a bit with the defensive ends in spring. He was repping a bit with the defensive tackles. So he's a bit of a tweener in a good way. Like he's going to settle into a spot. I think it'll be at 3 tech. He's going to settle into one spot in the long run eventually and be a quality player for Oklahoma. But I would look at him and I would look at Carrington just because of what they are physically and how they play. I think if you're looking for the next Grayson Halton, one of those two guys, I think they're poised, whether it's in 2026 or beyond, to be what he was. Now, the guy that Oklahoma brought in for this year specifically to kind of be that stopgap in the event that you don't get it right away from Azawalu and Tank Carrington, Bishop Thomas, the transfer defensive tackle from Georgia State. I mean, they told him when they were recruiting him, we see a lot of Grayson Halton in you. We want you to come be, in 2026, what Halton has been for the last 4 seasons at Oklahoma. Well, 3 seasons. Freshman year, he was playing a lot of edge, actually. But Bishop Thomas is kind of your bridge, if you will, as Carrington and Azawalu continue to develop. And they've both done good things on the practice field, but I also think it's fair to acknowledge, Josh, they may still be a year away from really making a dent.
It should not be forgotten, the contributions that Grayson Halton made upon this program. He was a big-time player, and obviously you just think about the way the interior of that defense, how it played out for Oklahoma a season ago. Losing him is that's a big loss, and let's hope that Azawalu or whatever that combination looks like on the interior, Bishop Thomas is somebody that it just seems like that might not be the first name that comes to your mind, but Brent Venables has mentioned his name a lot. Yep. And so you kind of take your cues from Coach on that front, and if he keeps mentioning Bishop Thomas's name, then there's probably a good chance he's going to help him a little bit. But that will be curious. That will be one of the camp battles to watch. Not obviously the frontline starters, David Stone, Jaden Jackson, but what's going on behind those two? Who's taking those backup reps? Who's going to win those jobs?
Yeah, and a lot of those reps were going to Tank Carrington in the spring. I mean, I would say amongst the freshmen, amongst the group that was the early enrollee freshmen, Tank Carrington might have made the strongest overall impression. And there were some guys that did a lot of the right things and took strides and showed that they can be ready to contribute at Oklahoma in 2026, like Jahsir Rogers, for instance. Jonathan Hatton is a guy that they have high expectations for. Noah Best and Deacon Schmidt on the offensive line. I think at tight end they have a couple guys in Tyler Ruxer and Ryder Mix that are, well, they're not going to redshirt here in 2026 because redshirts don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
but,
5 to play 5.
It'll probably be a year for those guys. It'll be a year for some of the other guys like Brian Harris at defensive tackle. I don't think he's quite as ready as Tank Carrington is, but that's okay. You need guys that are all developing and coming into their own on different timelines. That helps you out as far as the rotations go and just kind of managing critical mass at each position group. And it also helps with balancing the budget as well, because there's always a point at which a guy who's just a guy becomes a high-dollar guy. Taylor Wine this offseason is a great example. Brent Venables said at SEC Media Days he was one of the lowest paid guys on the entire roster last year. Well, circa December, Taylor Wine officially became a big high-dollar guy.
As he should have been.
Yes, there is no question he deserves it. But if you're developing talent and you're getting guys better and you're slowly helping them morph into serious contributors at the illustrious University of Oklahoma, they're going to continue to command and receive more and more money over the course of their college careers. And so it probably doesn't help. It's probably less than ideal if you have 7 or 8 Taylor Wines that take the jump from being guys that are paid a pittance to guys that are legitimately worth a high 6-figure check, maybe 7 figures. If you have 7 or 8 of those guys make that jump in the same offseason, then that creates a crunch, obviously. But, if they're all kind of developing on different timelines and it's all kind of staggered such that you're not breaking the bank because you have a zillion breakout performers at once, but it's just a bunch of dudes, a bunch of experienced old-timers, if you will, steadily handing the reins to the younger up-and-comers on a gradual basis. And that happens at maybe 3 or 4 key spots on the roster every single year, then that certainly helps a school like Oklahoma out in the financial department where they're going to have resources to pay the guys that they need to pay. But the money ain't unlimited either. 405-651-3439. That is the First Liberty Bank text line. Parker Thune, Josh Helmer here with you on Locked In. We're just getting started. It's a Thursday. Come on back with us. This is The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
This is your home for Sooner fans. The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Beats and Bites is back for its 10th anniversary. Join us to celebrate a decade of delicious food, incredible live music, and unforgettable memories at Riverwind Casino. Don't miss the fun with Jake Owen, with Jordan Rayner, Saturday, August 8th. Book your tickets online or at the box office for only $10.
Oklahoma, safety starts with you.
If you see something, say something with the free and anonymous Protect OK app. Whether it's a threat to one of our schools, a public safety concern, or a disturbing post on social media, your tip can help prevent crime and keep our schools and communities safe.
Download Protect OK today because protecting Oklahoma is everyone's responsibility. Available free on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Funded by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
A summer bug can turn a great day into a sick day fast. Whether it's a heat-related illness, a cough, or a sports accident, Norman Regional's urgent cares and walk-in clinics are here when you need us. With convenient locations in Norman, Moore, and Goldsby, you can get expert care for non-emergency illnesses and injuries without an appointment. Skip the long wait and get back to enjoying your summer. Visit a Norman Regional Urgent Care or walk-in clinic today. Book online at normanregional.com or just walk right in.
You ever stop and think, what happens if my air conditioner quits today when it's 100 degrees outside? That's not a problem you want to figure out at the last minute. Hey, it's Chris Plank. That's why I trust Norman Air. Whether it's a quick repair, routine maintenance, or a complete new system, they've got the experience to get your home comfortable again fast. I use them in my house, and you should too. They can also help with plumbing and electrical. Don't sweat this summer. Call the team that's been keeping Oklahoma families cool for years. Norman Air. Service to the max.
Are you worried about what might be lurking in your walls? Hi, this is Reese with Cavens Group, experts in mold and asbestos detection. For a limited time, get our comprehensive inspection and rest easy knowing your family's safety comes first. Our certified professionals use state-of-the-art technology to uncover hidden dangers and give you peace of mind. Don't wait for problems to get worse. Call Cavens Group today or visit cavensgroup.com and breathe easier tomorrow. Cavens Group, you don't need us until you need us.
A swing and a miss, and that's a winner.
We will see you tomorrow night.
Press play on Cardinals history on Friday, August 7th. The Cards take on the Rockies, and that day fans take home a special edition Joe and Jack Buck bobblehead featuring the Hall of Fame father-son broadcasting duo, plus a built-in voice chip with some of their most memorable calls. That's courtesy of Amarin. It's a collectible you can see and hear. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Jake Aldridge, partner at Aldridge Teasdale. We know accidents happen when you least expect them. But if you're injured, your path to recovery and justice starts with the right attorney by your side. At Aldridge Teasdale, we understand that every injury is personal and that every story matters. You deserve an advocate who will fight for you. But don't wait. If you need medical assistance, you need to get it now, and we can help you with access to the best doctors in Oklahoma. Call Aldridge Teasdale today, 405-447-HURT. That's 405-447-4878.
Summer in Oklahoma means lakes, docks, and long days outside. It also means hidden hazards most families never think about, like faulty dock wiring that can silently electrify the water around it. At Oklahoma Electric Cooperative, we believe knowing the danger is the first step to staying safe. This summer, download our free summer safety checklist and make sure your family is ready for the season. Visit okcoop.org/safety.
Locked in here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune alongside Josh Helmer. Hanging with you on the First Liberty Bank text line, where you can hit us up at 405-651-3439. We have a text that is remarkably free of bleeps from the bleeper.
That's too bad.
The bleeper hit us up and asked, is the 5-for-5 rule effective for players already in college? Seems like that will have a major effect on players' decisions to stay or go to the NFL. And basically, here's the gist. Players that are currently in college, players that are enrolled at a 4-year institution as of 2026, have an option at their disposal. They can use whatever eligibility model suits them best. They can go 5-for-5, or they can abide by the old eligibility rules, if you will. So, for instance, I'll give you 2 examples of players that are currently on OU's roster that could theoretically stand to benefit from the 5-for-5 ruling. I think we all figure that Peyton Bowen is going to be off to the NFL after 2026. Technically, he could return in 2027 to take advantage of 5-for-5. That's not likely. What is very much within the realm of possibility, though, is that 2 guys that do return, because they get an extra year now with 5-for-5, are PJ and Jermichael Carter. Those guys have played 3 seasons. They did not redshirt. They played their true freshman year in 2023, their true sophomore season in 2024, and their true junior season in 2025. So, they have played 3 seasons in 3 years. They are on track, if they want to to play 5 seasons in 5 years and return to Oklahoma for the 2027 campaign. Or, hit the transfer portal and play somewhere else if they feel so inclined. But an example of a player that is going to benefit or can only benefit from the old eligibility model as opposed to the new one is that with 5 for 5, there are no red shirts. There are no waivers of any kind for anything except for military service, right? Military service, religious missions, and I guess on the women's side, pregnancy. They make accommodations for pregnancy. But a player that would be eligible through 2027 based on the old eligibility model but would run out of eligibility after the 2026 season under the new eligibility model is Nick Anderson, who's now at Kentucky, obviously. His freshman year at Oklahoma was 2022. He redshirted. He played 2023. 2024, he only appeared in 1 game and is eligible for a medical waiver. So that year right now does not count against him. But 2023 at OU and 2025 at LSU do count against him. So under the old eligibility model, Nick Anderson can play at Kentucky in 2026, and he can play another season in 2027. If he were abiding by the new eligibility model, his college career is over after 2026 because that's his 5th season.
Yep, no red shirts.
It's only under the old eligibility model that he would be able to return for a 6th year of college football in 2027 if he so desired. So they've set it up such that for athletes who are currently enrolled, they kind of have their pick as to whichever one suits them and their circumstances best. Now, the interesting thing, I think the most interesting aspect of all of this, is that somewhere in the twilight zone, of course, there are guys that played 4 years of college football and never redshirted from 2022 to 2025, so they would have just exhausted their eligibility last season. But now they look at 5 for 5 and they say, well, if I can get a temporary restraining order and have 5 for 5 applied to my college career and be able to take advantage of the window that just opened because of that eligibility model, and now I can come back to college football in 2026, there's the potential that we see a lot of those in the coming weeks. We've seen one very recently at Texas with offensive lineman Cole Hudson, who I believe played like 48 games over 4 seasons at Texas. He was a true freshman in 2022, and he played 4 years without redshirting, 22 through 25. And so when last season concluded, he was done. He was done. At the time, 5 for 5 was nothing more than a thought. And so via the old eligibility standards, he had no choice but to move on. He had exhausted his eligibility. But after 5 for 5, he pretty promptly got legal representation, went to court, and challenged the NCAA over it, despite the fact that he had been to an NFL minicamp with the Cleveland Browns and I think a couple other teams as well. He realized, okay, I'm not going to make a 53-man roster. If I have any hope of making a 53-man roster, I probably need to go put another season of college tape up, and I can do that now, theoretically, if I can win this court battle against the NCAA, which he has. And so he's now returning to Texas in 2026. That's probably not going to be the only such case that we see. And in fact, Josh, I saw it on my Twitter feed circulating earlier today. There are a bunch of college basketball players that have all banded together to mount a similar legal challenge because red shirts are less common in basketball than they are in football. They happen, but they're less common. And so there are a bunch of college basketball players on both the men's and women's side that played 4 seasons without redshirting, exhausted their eligibility under the old model last year, and are now fighting for the opportunity to return for an additional season of college ball this coming winter. And so this is just kind of the new reality. There are always going to be lawsuits regarding eligibility matters. I don't know when this is all going to come to an end and we have some very clear lines in the sand that can't be challenged in court. But the thing about any and every solution you could contrive to the current eligibility predicament is that there's always going to be somebody with a unique set of circumstances that they can make a case in court in front of a judge and said judge could reasonably arrive at the decision that, yeah, they deserve to play another year. I mean, we saw one in the spring here at Oklahoma with Owen Heineke.
Yep.
And so it's going to be all over the map. I mean, it'll be a bunch of unique situations that come into play in the courtroom. A bunch of guys that dealt with one thing or another, whether it was another sport in Heineke's case or a myriad of injuries or, in Cole Hudson's case, just was a year too old for the system, if you will. We're going to have a lot of lawsuits surrounding college sports eligibility in the coming years. Like this is not going away anytime soon.
It will wind up being a decade of confusion because basically we had all of the COVID eligibility. So you had the flexibility with eligibility and some changes and understandable tweaks there, just given the eligibility in years that athletes lost. And now this, with all of these new legal challenges that legal avenues that folks are traversing here. And really, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to get to a place where my head's not spinning so much that, 5 years from now we could say, okay, it's 5 to play 5 and he's a third-year player. That means he's got this season and 2 more. And there's not going to be a bunch of legal challenges to try to get that 6th year after that. I think that would be good for college athletics to get to that place to where it's not so topsy-turvy with the eligibility conversations, because it is a lot to try to digest it.
Yeah, and it's gonna be till like 2030 to where we're clear of all of these issues. It's kind of like when the COVID-19 eligibility freeze happened. At that point, it was I think everybody realized it at the time. Maybe didn't process it immediately because of all that was going on, but the very obvious ramification of the COVID-19 eligibility freeze was that we were going to have COVID-19 eligibility freeze-related issues all the way through 2024, 2025, maybe even 2026. Like Rocky Beers is eligible at Oklahoma in 2026 because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
So it created a ripple effect that had a 5-6 year window before we were going to be clear of it. And because we're talking about 5-4-5, i.e. a 5-year eligibility window with the new model, we're 5 years out, i.e. 2030, from having all of those issues resolved.
Indeed.
And at that point, I think this is why the NCAA did it the way that they did it, is because they realized, okay, for the next 5 years, we're going to be fighting a bunch of court battles. But after that, it's very clear who's eligible and who's not.
Black
because
and white.
It is 5 years to play up to 5 seasons, no medical waivers, no red shirts, no nothing.
Just these.
You have a 5-year clock. You take advantage of it to whatever extent you can.
Couple of very clear exceptions for military service, religious observations and missions, and pregnancies. And that's it. And otherwise it's 5 to play 5, which, again, I think would be good for college athletics. And in certain instances, these arguments like Owen Heineke, I think just given the climate of college athletics, Parker, he's got a great case. He won the case, and I think for good reason won the case. But it is a little exhausting sometimes trying to figure out, well, wait a second. Okay, so they could have 2 years, but they could have a third year now. It's just got to get to a place to where it's more straightforward.
Amen to that. Waco Sooner says, I'm really going to be happy when the days of here's an 8th-year senior tight end are gone. Yeah, I don't think we should have any 7th-year seniors after this year. Like Rocky Beers is among the last group that could reasonably be affected or / was affected by the COVID-19 eligibility freeze. He is eligible to play in Oklahoma in 2026 because he had a COVID-19 year that he got back, a redshirt year that he got back, and a year where he was eligible for a medical waiver. And so, this is it for him. There's no question about it. And again, come 2027, we should not have any more of those cases.
I can't
thank
wait.
the Lord for that.
I can't wait.
It's going to clarify things significantly. But it will probably be till 2030 before we have complete clarity on matters of eligibility and no black sheep in the fold where you're like, how is that guy still eligible? How is he still playing college football? By the way, you know what? I want to take an early break because you just pulled up the tweet with the quote that I want to talk about in the last segment.
I thought you might.
Yes. And we've received a bunch of texts about it already. And it's not an age-old debate. It's a debate that's only arisen here within the last few years. But how do the SEC and Big Ten really stack up with one another? Curt Cignetti, defending national champion head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, he had some stuff to say. We know Curt Cignetti. He speaks his mind. He doesn't hold anything back. He had some things to say earlier today at Big Ten Media Days about the comparisons between the SEC and the Big Ten. Let's dive into that and discuss on the other side with plenty of your texts on the First Liberty Bank text line, 405-651-3439. This is The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
This is the Ref Sports Radio Network.
Hey everybody, Mike Steely here, your favorite regional radio star, inviting you to join us every day, noon to 2 here on the Ref with Parker Thune and myself. We'll be talking all things Sooner football, of course. I'll talk about the attention-seeking clowns as well. There's also no better way to take us with you everywhere than by downloading the KREF app, presented by Warren Cat on your Apple or Android device. We're talking about a great app here, folks. It's so easy, even this old man can do it. That's the KREF app, presented by Warren Cat, proud sponsor of Sooner Athletics.
The Norman Chamber of Commerce encourages you to shop, eat, and play local this summer. Get all your bases covered at Play It Again Sports with new and quality used gear. Buy, sell, or trade new and used sports equipment, including baseball, softball, football, tennis, soccer, and score your official NYSA and Oklahoma Celtic apparel at Play It Again Sports. Too tired to cook tonight? Skip the kitchen and order online with Thai Thai Asian Bistro. Enjoy a diverse, flavorful menu of authentic curries, chef specials, and fresh appetizers. Taste the tradition. Order online now at Thai Thai Asian Bistro. The historic Sooner Theater is a summer staple and a must-see downtown. See great local theater, concerts, or attend performing arts classes. Find upcoming events and tickets at SoonerTheater.org. Remember to shop, eat, and play this summer in Norman.
How do you know you're home? At Habitat for Humanity, we believe it's when you find peace, stability, and safety. But 1 in 3 people on Earth woke up today without a good home. Not because of chance, but because of high costs and other very real barriers. A housing crisis this big needs all of us. So let's open the door to opportunity and build a tomorrow where home is possible for everyone. Visit Habitat.org to learn more. Again, that's Habitat.org. Habitat for Humanity. Let's open the door.
Ref Army, when it comes to taking care of your vehicle, trust matters. And when my car and my wife's car both needed repairs, we took them to Bosch Auto Service and more. They're locally owned by a great family that believes in treating people the right way. One thing I really appreciate about Bosch is there's no cost to have them look at your vehicle and figure out what's wrong. And when it comes to repairs, they're always upfront with pricing. So whether it's routine maintenance or a major repair, I trust their experienced team to get the job done right, and you should too. Visit Bosch Auto Service at 1751 Southwest 34th Street and more, or schedule your service online at boschautoservice.com.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age, everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Data shows that after a child turns 9 in foster care, they are much less likely to be adopted. But the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption believes every child is adoptable.
Families, if you're able to let your hair down a little bit, there's a lot to learn from teenagers.
The clock is ticking for teens at risk of aging out of foster care. Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
Quick aside here, Josh. I have to get this off my chest. I really dislike one of the growing trends in the aesthetic world of sports, i.e. uniform packages and the like. There's way too much of that chrome, glossy, reflectivity type of vibe going on for me. I don't like that at all.
Don't like the chrome helmets?
No, man. Like, for instance, Notre Dame has one of the best, most iconic looks in all of sports, not just college football.
Especially if you once you see that helmet in person, you really understand, wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, the solid gold helmets, the dark blue jerseys, the gold pants. It's a classic look, man. Incredible. But Notre Dame and many other brands over the past decade or so, I think they kind of cheapened their look by going overboard with the chrome reflectivity, with that, however you want to categorize that, whatever label you want to slap on it. I like things normal, and whatever that is, it's not normal.
I don't disagree with you. I could do with less chrome.
It makes it look like, I don't even know what it makes it look like. Like one of those construction uniforms, like.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And it's unfortunate because, again, the Notre Dame look is great, gorgeous, in its traditional, unadulterated form. It is beautiful, beautiful. We need to get away from this trend. Please and thank you. Outlaw Devil says college football uniforms are going to start looking like NASCAR uniforms anyway. The teams that I have seen go with the jersey patch so far, they've found tasteful ways to incorporate it. And I think there's enough pageantry, and I just think there's enough tradition in college football and enough respect for the aesthetics, the overall aesthetics of the sport, that they're never gonna put multiple sponsors on jerseys, I would think. I mean, we haven't seen anybody outside of the motorsports world. We haven't seen any professional sports league. We haven't seen any professional sports team go with multiple logos, multiple advertisers, right?
The only individual that might be willing to do that is, of course, Brett Yormark, who I'm sure will strike up another lousy deal anytime soon.
Waco Sooner says, thank God this isn't an Oregon football radio show. Oregon, man. They're all over the map. Some of their looks are really good. Some are atrocious. Some they need to burn. Some I look at, like the eggshell look they did a few years back. That was one of the coolest uniforms I've ever seen, man. They do have some, and when you have limitless Nike money, it helps. But they do have some that are awesome. They have some that suck. It be like that. Okay, Kurt Signetti. Josh, what exactly did he say earlier today at Big Ten Media Days?
Well, let's just listen back.
The Big Ten is the best league in football, and a lot of really good football teams. It's hard to win on the road. Very physical football teams, very well coached. It definitely prepares you for the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, we don't run a hype machine up here in the Midwest. We believe everything's earned, not given. And when we fall short, we say we fell short. We don't cry a river, whine, and complain. All right? And that's why we're the best.
Coach Signetti, thank you so much for your
Wow, zingers!
A true mic drop moment.
Look, man, we're in an SEC market now. Oklahoma's an SEC program now. I get that the trendy thing is to try to prop up the SEC. Like that is the Homer's slant on it. Prop up the SEC continue to hammer home the talking points that the SEC is the deepest league, the most competitive league in college football. And I think it is. But I don't think the margin between the SEC and the Big Ten is very big at all. Certainly not as large as some have made it out to be. And, to an extent, the proof is in the pudding. Like the Big Ten has 3 national championships in a row. The SEC hasn't even played for one over the last 3 seasons. And so I hear Cignetti say something like that. And, I'm sitting here golf clapping because I disagree with his assessment that in an overall sense the Big Ten is the best. I still give the slight edge to the SEC. But I think all of the SEC homerism, all of the SEC grandstanding that goes on is more than a little bit overblown. And, we got a text earlier in the hour from Deer Creek Sooner, and he said, hey, Parker, this SEC versus Big Ten conversation is tired. The bottom half, maybe even the bottom 60% of the Big Ten, is as JUCO as the Big 12 and majority of the ACC. Indiana, Ohio State, etc., come into the postseason much fresher than the MASH unit SEC teams who get wounded every week all season long. I get where you're coming from on that. There's probably some truth to that. I really don't think. If you were to take the 10th best team in the Big Ten, which is like, I don't know, any given year, maybe that's Minnesota. Minnesota feels like a good example. If you take the 10th best team in the Big Ten and say that's Minnesota, and you want to match Minnesota up with whoever the 10th best team in the SEC is in a given year, which let's just say in 2025, for the sake of the hypothetical.
Nebraska, by the way, in the standings according to last year.
Dang. Minnesota's close, though. Like, they're in the ballpark, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the game better.
Okay.
But
So let's use Minnesota as the example. Let's say we put Minnesota on the same field as Auburn from last year. Middle of the pack SEC team. An SEC team that is certainly not good, but certainly not bad. You put Minnesota and Auburn on the same field, that's a ball game. That's a 4-quarter ball game in my mind. And I know not everybody agrees with that. I know we're dealing mostly in hypotheticals. But I truly don't think the gap between the SEC and the Big Ten is large at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom. You put Rutgers and Mississippi State on the field. That's a ball game. I think what we have in college football is 2 leagues that are head and shoulders above the rest. Certainly. Yep. The SEC and the Big Ten are on a different level than the Big 12 and the ACC in an overall sense. But I don't think the SEC and Big Ten are in terribly different spots. As conferences, like I said, I think they're pretty equal on the top level, pretty equal in the middle tier, and pretty equal when you look at the lower tier of the conference as well.
I do think there's a difference between the 2 leagues. I mean, obviously, the top of the Big Ten's won 3 national championships in a row, and it's a good league. But I would take Auburn more times than not versus that Minnesota team. And but in the bottom is I mean, there's some bad teams in the Big Ten. You look at Michigan State was terrible a season ago. Purdue's been awful. Maryland, Wisconsin is way down. Rutgers. So I do think the bottom of the SEC is, and the middle, I believe, is legitimately better than the Big Ten. But I look at Cignetti's remarks, and I digest them like this, Parker. Talk your talk, man. The guy said Google me when he took the gig. And you know what? He won his national championship. The Big Ten as a conference has won 3 consecutive national championships, and it's been 3 different programs. And so when that's the case, you get to stand in front of the podium and in front of the microphone, you get to talk your stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily agree with everything Cignetti said, but he gets to talk his talk.
There's an I1 listener that said, just look at the NFL draft, guys. That's all you need to do. No, we're not doing that because now you sound like a Texas fan. That's what you sound like. That was That was one of the rallying cries for Texas fans for years and years when Oklahoma owned them. Well, we put more guys in the NFL. So what? What does that have to do with, like, you're talking about the NFL, we're talking about college football. You're talking about Sundays, we're talking about Saturdays. Outlaw Devil said week 0 Big Ten SEC challenge to settle it all. I wouldn't mind it. But
that'd be great.
Like, here's my overarching point. The SEC is a really hard league. 1 through 16, no matter who you're matching up with on any given week, you got to bring your A game and you got to take the opponent seriously. Otherwise, you will get punked. It happens every week in this league throughout the season. However, it is also fair to say, and these two things are not mutually exclusive, the Big Ten is also a really tough league.
Agreed.
And anybody can beat anybody any given week in the Big Ten as well. And I think a lot of it just kind of has to do with the exposure factor. We follow Oklahoma here in this state and in this market. We're exposed to a lot more SEC football than Big Ten football.
Well, there's great players in the Big Ten. There's no question.
Yeah. I'm sure the people that live in Big Ten country are hitting the exact same talking points halfway out of ignorance because they're not exposed to a ton of SEC football because they're dialed in on whatever their Big Ten team is and the rest of the conference as a whole. So the two aren't mutually exclusive. Just because the SEC is a really difficult league to navigate does not mean the Big Ten isn't also a really difficult league to navigate. Is one slightly superior to the other? Yes, certainly. I give the edge to the SEC in that regard.
Yeah, the bottom of the SEC is just – it's just not the same. I mean, the rocking chair games, as Kevin Henry likes to say in basketball, there are a couple of those in the Big Ten right now. I mean, any of those bottom 5 teams last year – you would have felt really good. I mean, if you're a good football team, you ought to beat Rutgers, Wisconsin, Maryland, Michigan State, Purdue, all of them a season ago. And I don't know that you could say the same about the bottom 5 in the SEC. But you know what? The Big Ten's also got 2 more teams in the conference than the SEC does. So it's not even numbers in that way.
Evan from Blanchard says, Talon Green was the quarterback of the worst team in the SEC last year. Can you tell me who the quarterback at last place Purdue was? It was Ryan Brown, wasn't it? He was playing quarterback for Purdue last year. I didn't watch a whole lot of Purdue football. I mean, they were 2-10. Between the two conferences, they were clearly the worst team. Like the Big Ten had the worst team. Like, and what are they? Are there 18 in the Big Ten now?
18,
is that what it is?
Yep.
So out of the 34 teams across the SEC and the Big Ten, the worst of the 34 was Purdue.
Yeah.
Like the Big Ten had the worst. They also had the best, though. I mean, they had Indiana.
For
they
3
had the
years
team
running.
that was hoisting the trophy at season's end. So, Blue Sooner says, let's see the Big Ten cannibalize itself in the playoffs like the SEC did this year. The SEC had to lose 2 teams right off the bat. That's true, Blue Sooner. That's true. However, I don't think it was simply a case of the SEC cannibalizing itself in the playoffs. Like, if you watched the Rose Bowl between Indiana and Alabama, again, maybe I'm the moron here. I didn't walk away thinking, oh, man, Alabama's just gassed. Indiana's a fresher team. No, I walked away thinking, whoa, Indiana's like far and away just a better football team than Alabama.
Yes, no question. Would agree with that. Though the wear and tear, they're probably, I mean, there's definitely – that's real, but I would agree that I didn't have that takeaway coming out of that game that it was the schedule that Alabama played versus Indiana. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just flat out dominated.
Well, and here's the other angle, too. You know, if you're going to stand on that SEC pedestal and you're going to boast about the SEC having the deepest rosters, the best talent, well, then you should be better equipped to handle the wear and tear that comes week in, week out throughout the season, right? You should be better equipped than a Big Ten team is. And is your depth going to be tested a little bit more? Sure, but at least if all the talking points are correct, you got more dudes on your team.
I will say this. Somebody texted in earlier and said, the Big Ten seems a little bit more interested in the SEC of late than the SEC is in the Big Ten. And there's definitely some truth to that. There's been some real jealousy from Big Ten fan bases. And I get SEC fans can rub folks the wrong way at times, but they are living it up on the top of the mountaintop, letting everybody hear about it.
So like the John Hamm meme, I feel sorry for you. I don't think about you at all. Is that kind of what it is? I feel like I've seen quite a bit from both conferences. Like both commissioners, right? They both made it a point to assert their conference's superiority at media days.
As they should, right?
I mean, it's about time the SEC's got to go win another national title. Got to have a leg to stand on. Because right now, the Big Ten has that leg, and has for a while. All right, folks, Locked In is a wrap. The Rush is coming up next. You got 3 more hours of me with Teddy Lehman. Keep it here. We'll see you again tomorrow. Take it easy.